And welcome to Outside the Box. I'm your host, Kate of Gaia. Yeah, we're going to have some fun tonight. Joining us, of course, the co-helm of all the Outside the Box shows, Tony Z, and our special guest tonight, another cunning linguist, goes by the tag of Dezert Owl, and had an opportunity to talk with him the other day. And we're on the same page as far as tongue pledges, languages. We come at it from two different perspectives, and that's one of the joys of the language. When you get many people looking at it from different perspectives, it opens up your own perspectives even further. Well, we hope anyway, yeah? So without further ado, I just want to welcome, Dezert Owl and Tony. Are you, both you guys there?
Yeah. Hey, right here. Tony, hadn't talked in a while. Been about a year practically, huh? Good to hear you.
Yeah, it's been a busy old year and all mate. I tell you.
Okay. And then some. Desert, where do you want to jump in? You want to go hot and heavy and just have some fun, or where do you want to go?
Well, I'm on for the ride, so I don't have any particular direction. You know, I stopped broadcasting on my own network back in March, so I find it ironic that in my attempt to get interviews, I'm very grateful that you're having me on here tonight, Kate, but really, I've been sending out my promo to different radio networks and hosts, and I'm absolutely amazed that, my phone's not ringing off the hook, so I don't know what people are looking for out there, if they want somebody to support the political illusions or I just don't understand. I cover a lot of ground, of course. I translate one of the things that I'm doing is making history in my spiritual translations, which actually I refer to as transliterations, because the translation to me is like magic. Translate, presto magic. You got an ancient word in one modern word, and it's a theoretical impossibility. So I transliterate thoughts and ideas, concepts from the ancient into the modern, and so I hope to real soon be able to produce the New Testament based on original thought. That's been my lifetime goal and challenge. So stay tuned for that, and I'll keep you posted. I do have samples, and whenever later on I can give out my websites, I'll tell people where they can go and check those out.
Absolutely. Again, this is about the thing about the Outside the Box. The show itself is meant more for creating connections and, of course, taking things in directions that most people normally won't do. We don't get stuck in the day-to-day nonsense of the illusion. There's too much going on, and it's very easy to get caught up in that square, round peg, square hole kind of thinking. Which personally I have no time for. There's no originality in it, and that's one of the things you'll find, especially with a lot of shows, at least that I tune into. It's just the same thing packaged over, with a different label, but it's still the same thing. So that's one of the reasons why my personal goal is to bring people into shows that have. They can be wildly different perspectives, or they can be, along the same lines. Or I don't really particularly care, but I want them to be original. I want to experience a different perspective, not the same old, same old. You know what I mean? Oh yeah.
And I've been in this the political arena for the last 20 years, and I started studying my spiritual journey back when I was 16 years old, so that's 40 years now. I'm 56, but actually I was conscious in my mother's womb. I remember sucking my thumb and seeing pink light, and then poof, one day I'm out behind bars looking through a crib, and then the rest of the matrix just absolutely overwhelmed me, so I'm ready for the next reality, which of course we do find here. That's the duality within nature to find the eternal. While we're here in this limited matrix that is fooling us.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting wonderland. I'm going to start referring to it simply as Wonderland. Many times people have heard me say we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto, and the specific trails that we're on right now, in terms of living in the now moment, which of course is where you really need to be getting into that Zen moment. where you can start seeing things and where you can start having original thoughts, original ideas.
Right.
And building upon that, and again, it is that spiritual journey, that experiential that we're all going through. And all too often I see every day I see the drama, people getting caught up in this and caught up in that, and it's like, does it really matter? And I find myself, I find it very draining, actually. It's like, I'm here to learn something. I mean, maybe that's just my own selfish viewpoint. I have a very specific purpose for being here. That I know. It's always resonated, much in the same way that you were talking of. I don't go quite as far back. In my memory, I do remember the day I was born, however.
Yeah.
But for some people,
that's a pretty novel experience right there, I'm sure, because most people probably don't remember the day they're born. I don't remember coming out. I just remember being in the womb, and then I was having flashbacks, to the event, that went with me throughout my, next 35 years. I had flashbacks to it, so I couldn't forget it. Actually,
Yeah, things like that. They're very difficult to forget when they're that embedded in the memory, not the psyche, the memory. Well, the psyche is a spirit, right? The psyche, spiritual life force, and again, we talked the other day, I come at things from a very green language perspective based on the phonics. And as I told you, as I told everyone many occasions, I don't see words in as much, as a songwriter, what I would do is I see pictures. That's what I don't specifically, I really have to concentrate if I want to see a word. So typically what I do is as you put it, it's a better way to put it, I transliterate that picture into these squiggly little shapes, sigils, whatever you want to call them, to convey that concept across to someone else. And when we're speaking of language, we're not speaking of how to translate. What we're doing more. I'll get your opinion on this one as well. We're dealing with concepts and trying to get that concept across using the in some cases with most people is very limited tools, not really understanding what it is they're actually saying. I learned that lesson through a friend of mine, Portuguese friend, who he and a couple of others were standing around and he was telling a joke in Portuguese, and they started howling. I thought, well, okay, I don't speak Portuguese, so what's the joke? And he started to try to tell me the joke in English, and he got a couple of lines in. It doesn't work in English; it only works in Portuguese.
You're right.
So
right.
That was an early on lesson for me.
Yeah.
And,
Well, that's amazing. Because that's really true. I've heard that over and over, and people would, I think people would tend to think here, like in America, speaking English, and then they're surrounded by all the technology, all the conveniences and everything, and they probably actually would think that they're probably the most sophisticated society going on, and then when you learn the truth, then you begin to understand that we're basically speaking Pig Latin, and it's all been engineered and controlled by a very dark and sinister force. I can tell you how I discovered where they do it at and all that here in a bit. But I was going to give an example of how things don't. They're so different in the other tongue. So if we go back to the original thought in Aramaic, which is based on my transliterations, if somebody was saying like in our modern tongue, you're smiling, back then in the ancient, because everything was in reference to image and symbol, and created a metaphor. So if you were smiling and they said you were smiling, they would say your sun is shining. So your head, what is above your body, was regarded as the sun. That's like the sun in the sky, and therefore if you're smiling, so your sun is shining. So shining is the smile, And if they were going to, let's say, I wanted you to come and look at something with me, and I'd say in English, I'd say, you come on over here. Hey, you come on over here. Something like that. And but in the ancient, they would say, because I want you to see what I'm seeing, because depending upon how you change the vowel in the words, you can get, in this instance, three different aspects. And so the first one, if I want you to see what I'm seeing, I would say my eyes. Come on over here. Come here. And then if I wanted you to help me do something, instead of saying, can you come over here, I would say, my hands. My hands, come here. I want you to help me with this project, my hands. So you become my hands. And then if I want you to go somewhere with me, instead of saying, hey, come on over here, you, and let's I would say, my feet, come over here. And so it's totly different, because it's archaic, it's primitive, and it's original. And the original, again, is based on imagery, and not only that, but you may have had to add a little body language, and be looking somebody in the eye when they're talking to get the full gist of what they're saying, because it's you are a son, and again, what does that mean? So most people don't associate the fact when it's a boy, and you say I had a son, they never think of the the sun in the sky, but that's actually what it implies.
Exactly. Just to really add some concrete to that beautiful structure you're putting together, you can go anywhere in the world and stick up your middle finger, and I'll guarantee you they'll understand the metaphor. There was an episode.
No doubt.
There was an episode years, and we go with this with a bit.
And we could thank television for that in the movies, right?
Oh, hugely. Yeah. There was an episode. I can't remember what it was called. I'll have to look it up sometime. But it was on Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I guess Jean-Luc Picard and his funky first mate were stuck on this rock, and there was apparently this monster that was out to get them, and they bumped into another resident of the planet. And I think it was this Jean-Luc and this guy they were trying to communicate, and the being on the planet spoke only in metaphor, and he would speak of something in their history in relation to what he wanted Jean-Luc to do. And of course it would come out, the battle of something was done here and there, and what he was trying to say was, I want you to come and help fight with me, that kind of thing. And by the end of the episode, Jean-Luc finally twigged on to the metaphorical, allegorical nature of how this being was trying to communicate, and he had picked up enough of the sayings that he could start to talk with him. And it's very difficult, when we learn to speak in concept versus just using words, the spin-outs, we get much deeper in the context of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and now with those two words, a context and a concept, I picked up, of course, years ago that the con, is a con, and to move away from those con words was the biggest challenge. So I've modified concept into precept, and precept also implying that which is first, and that which is first is superior, and so perhaps even pretext might work as well. So the pre-word is dominant for me within those con words, like Constitution, and what part of a con don't we understand? Because that goes back, and I have that in my Real Da Vinci Code etymological dictionary, the Constitution, and I take it back to the word constitutio. All you do is drop the N at the end. You just drop the N, and it's a Roman imperial decree, and so if you know that now the meaning of the symbol, when you add the N at the end of constitutio and get constitution, well, the symbol is now telling the story, because the N, capital N in particular, is a sliding board, and it's coming, and so it implies that which came down. And it's also a royal symbol. You'll see it in a relief on my website. I'll give that out here in a second. Perhaps I can show, since we're talking about it, I can take people there. If anybody wants to go to therealpublicradio.net, that's you have to have the in front of it, therealpublicradio.net, and then when you're at the very top, I've got 4 levels of links, and right at the top middle you'll see techno for technology. If you click on techno, and then you'll see on the 2 sublines, I've got a 5th and a 6th sublink line. Towards the right, either the 5th or the 6th line, I'm not looking at it right now, you'll see the letter N all by itself. Click on that, and then you'll see this Egyptian relief, and at the very bottom you're going to see a circle, and a circle is a dominant, a solar symbol again, and the N is in there, and then it's got a crown on it. Okay, so it actually implies, the royal. What it's implying is the royals are used in, that symbol, like the Phoenicians and nation, and so there's the end, that which came down. And so when we're talking about the Constitution, well, we know that it was supposedly created for one purpose and intent, but actually I like the speech that Mikhail Gorbachev did back about a decade and a half ago or so, and around 1997, and he moved into the Presidio. That's interesting. The former Soviet leader moves into the Presidio in northern San Francisco, and he says he loves the Constitution because it was written in such a way that the founders knew that it could then be molded and manipulated into whatever direction they wanted to go in, and so the imperial decree works because once they they attached the allonge of the Bill of Rights. Bill is not a law, therefore it's something that can be passed into a law. Therefore, it's not even really law; it's just an illusion. And but once they had the Civil War, and then they added that slavery 14th Amendment, and then for the first time you now have two subsections, A and B, and then from that point on, each of them are saying, and any other further legislation that is required to implement this, any further legislation required, it's a totally open-ended box, and that's what they claim is now, the new Constitution is that Bill of Rights, but that continues to have all of these things attached to it. And interestingly enough, nobody ever gets the point. If the Bill of Rights was something that was supposed to secure our freedom, how come the 18th or the 19th, I can't remember which one, guaranteed to take away our right to drink alcohol, back in the Prohibition area? So it's rather interesting when you look at it all in the right light.
Exactly. And when you were speaking of Constitutio, also one of the other tricks of the letter N, it is a possessive, which makes something mine. As an example, I've been giving out to people back in the day. They would use the singular of in front of everything, but when there was a vowel present, what they would do was they would attach it to the word after. So it would be something like neg or neagle or nautomobile. And what happened over time was that the N got surgically transplanted over onto the A, so it became an egg, an eagle. And what the only purpose in the lowercase aspect, and that's where I deal. I don't deal in capital L letters.
Yeah.
I deal with the lowercase, and what it does is it just creates an ownership. So there you have Constitutio, mine, right? So anytime you're using the letter N, you're claiming ownership of it, of the word and the utterances that you're making.
I see.
So lots of neat little tricks. Yeah, I was very fortunate in going to school both in North America and in Ireland, and very, very different systems. Here they teach you more what to think versus there. With my teachers anyway, they were teaching us how to think, literally how to think outside the box and to take ownership of our own precepts, concepts, contexts, and prefix. Yeah. Another aspect of the word con back in 1913, just to add more weight to what we're talking about, in Webster's Dictionary of 1913, the word con was given both sides, where what used to be against, like know your pros and cons, where it was changed as a prefix to mean it could be for or against, as in similar to com, as in communication, right?
Yeah.
With speak. So we can spend a couple of hours, no problem, just ripping stuff apart and showing people exactly what they're saying, or at least trying to convey that idea across. Like in Ireland, it was all about grammar. Here, I didn't get much. Even in grade 13, I did literature, and what was the other? I did a couple of literatures in grade 13 here, but I just, it's so different, just even the approach. And I found myself scratching my head many times here, especially with math teachers. One of the things that we had in Ireland was we weren't allowed to use a formula until we could strip it down backwards. Basically, reverse engineer the formula to know why it worked. And when we knew why it worked, we knew the original source and the concept behind it. Then we were allowed to use it freely. And of course, over here, I will say it's years advanced in terms of, when I came here at 14, I was ready for university here, basically. Of course, they throw you back in grade 9, and I spent quite a few years bored.
Well, I bet. Well, the thing, what I was thinking when you were telling me about your experience in Ireland is that the Irish people, formerly known as Celtic, also, you were some of the most oppressed people on the planet, and in fact, the Roman Empire tried to annihilate the remainder of all of you, and then you end up on a little island as a sub-colony to where once you were one of the major populations of the earth.
Absolutely. I mean, I can trace that all back through the Emerald Liberation Front, the ELF papers, and throughout the Celtic histories, and it all began there, and it's all coming home to roost there. So, and that's another story all by itself, and I'd love to get into that sometime with you.
Well, real quick, is it possible I could just make a pitch for my dictionary? Because
oh, please go. Yeah, actually, I thought you were going to do that already.
No, well, I gave out my general website, but I appreciate again beginning on your program here tonight, and I've been an activist for 20 years, actually, as I mentioned, 10 years ago after I came out of my voodoo and hoodoo when they tried to railroad me and put me away for life, which is a story for another day, unless you need to go there. But I came out a spiritual pacifist, but I still am, dedicated to truth. And so whether we're talking about the political or any other topic, I always try to define these things to get to the true nature of things. And so on the, it was in the last century, last millennium, and in the 90s when I was going to gun shows, and I had two organizations. The money was pretty good back then still, that, they didn't choke us to the point where we are now. And so, I ultimately stopped broadcasting because there was no funding, and of course we were competing like with Blog Talk Radio, which became the new wave, and it's hard to compete with such a dynamic concept of broadcasting, so my hat's off to them. And we're just now a radio museum, but I have 200 pages there, but we're really, if I didn't have a wonderful Christian landlord, I'd be on the street right now, because I'm into my third month and have not been able to pay the rent. I'm a translator and trying to produce an important work. I have a dictionary that they can see a sample of on my network, and I don't even have the funding to publish it. It's now 285 pages, 8.5 by 11. Tony, I know you've got a copy of it, and also Kate, you've got a copy of it. And so it's in PDF format. That's the only way I can make it available. But if anybody would like to help save a ministry that's down right now, I was able to just keep the phones on and not pay the rent, and I've got to put the fix in right now because I'm I'm 1 foot out the door, and I'd be very grateful. It's a suggested donation of $20, but any size donation, I'll be right after the program. I'll shoot you an email, or if we go to a break and the donation comes in off PayPal, I'll immediately send you a copy. So within this hour or when we get off, I'll get you the dictionary so you can look at it. In the meantime, you got a sample copy right there on therealpublicradio.net, and it'll tell you, go see the sample for a free sample. So you can click on that link or just click on the urgent tab at the top left, and you'll see not only the first offer is the dictionary. You can click on it, see the sample PDF, and then below there's some sample transliterations that I've done of the lost writings. I think there's some of the Essene writings are there, and I recommend looking at 1 John. I did all 5 chapters of 1 John, and it was really a profound experience to put it in original thought, because it was I had my own experience doing that. So if you there's my contact page, or you've got the PayPal button on any of those pages. Just click on it, and then I will immediately get the notice that you made a donation, and at that point I'll reciprocate as soon as I get off the air, if not during time we're on the air here. Okay, so I appreciate that, your support, and also if you want to get on my newsletter based on my transliterations, then just let me know. Send me a note on that. My email is contact@freeamericaradio.com. That's on the contact page, contact@freeamericaradio.com. And one more website. I do have a health ministry, with my spiritual walk, and I want you to check out this website if you or anybody is struggling today with, debilitating bone or skeletal problems, not to mention, skin disorders. But the truth is, when you take this product, I don't care what you got, it may go away internally with your organs. We have people who were actually, had their eyesight degenerated because of their diabetic symptoms and such, totally recover. Okay, so go check out that's the number 1, capital, CAPITAL, that's capital as in money, funny money, onecapitalsolution.com. Okay, that's the number 1, capitalsolution.com, solution is singular, and then go look at the photo gallery, okay, and look at a guy that looks 85 years old, and after 4 months on the product, he looks 55. That's 30 years younger, okay, in 4 months. You'll see pictures of a lady with arthritis, twisted fingers, golf ball knuckles, and in 6 weeks, straightened out, okay? So I can tell you that's a generic website, so contact me if you want more information on that product, and I'll be glad to get it to you, okay? And it really helped me out big time. It gave me my life back, and also my buddy who got me into this, champion gold medal weightlifter in the deadlift and the squats, he ruined his hips, Grateful Greg Sumner, and he, after 3 months on the product, threw his cane away, and where he was hobbling up the driveway, now he can run, okay? So it's a miracle. We've got a miracle here, and I want to share it with the world. So, Kate, thank you for that. And, Tony, I've never heard you so short-winded and having you on my network. So how you been, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. Just keeping going, which is what it's all about, isn't it? Trying to get out there and spread some information and let people know what's been going on while they were sleeping at the wheel. And that's what the effort's all about, isn't it? It's like figuring it out. When you figured it out, put it out there and say, well, look, this is the conclusion I come to.
Yeah, your audio, just want to say, your audio is very muffled for me. How is it for you, Kate?
It's good.
It's good for you. Okay, I don't know why it's that way with me, so I'm going to have to focus.
Yeah, it's normal. We get all sorts of different vibrations on our shows. It's almost like one of the other prerequisites of outside the box. Generally, people that come on are those that are all in every way, shape, and form, and that's when I get my own personal experience inkling as into what is going to get put out. And I will say something about the field of language. It encompasses all aspects. It's not just language, because when you're dealing with translations or transliterations, however you want to put it, you find yourself in many different realms all at the same time, and there are many different layers and many different concepts. And what I will say from what I've seen of your book already, there is a wealth of information that I know a lot of people, if they truly want to get a handle on what they're saying, and those that have tuned into this show long enough have got a different twist on what the language is about. I highly recommend your work, and I know the kind of effort that went into it, because I know the kind of effort that went into mine. Years and years and years of work to have literally epiphany moments, 3 or 4 per word kind of thing, where you're peeling layers off and seeing deeper and deeper into it. There's a lot more to a page than meets the eye at first glance. And that's one of the reasons why, if you talk in terms of legal land, the best way to handle anything there is don't get involved first. But if you have to, the best way to deal it out is with writing. Because with writing, you can put your intention, if you know how to speak the language, you can put your intention much clearer on the page. Sort of like if I would ever write the word refuse, I would put a hyphen in there to refuse, to make it clear that I'm not rejoining something. Because in common speak it means to say no, but in reality it means to rejoin. And there's other layers to it as well, letter by letter.
Right. That's a good one. I had not saw the picture on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the green language I speak of. That's kind of where my realm is, and I can see how what I do interweaves with what you're doing. And again, that dictionary brings a different layer from a different perspective. And that's why, it fascinates me only to the degree that I'm always looking for different perspectives on, okay, well, this is what I see in a word, this is what I hear in a word, and I've got my layers and my, my feelings on it. And then coming across others. Good examples of a couple of guys, Santo Bonacci and Bill Donahue, in terms of the biblical translations, where they've taken the literal language and put it back into the mystical concepts of what they're really talking about, which makes it, it starts to make sense, and you start to see the truth of what was there. And I always look at things from the perspective of everything is good and evil. In everything, the only thing that shifts on that is the individual's perspective and how they're looking at it. Are they looking at it openly as an observer, or are they looking at it critically as someone who is trying to pass judgment on something? Good example of that is, you'll hear people talk about Masonic symbols and Illuminati symbols are everywhere and they're evil. And I look at it from the viewpoint that, no, not at all. All I'm seeing is, look here, we got something to show you. Have a look. And the only thing that's going to stop. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's Lucifer clothed with the light. They put on all the truth. They're trapped in draping themselves in the truth. About brotherhood and fraternity and all those wonderful cliches. But of course, they are, as the word Masonic implies, or the alliteration of the code, which is the abbreviated form of the words, Masonic. Mothers, sons of darkness. They're liars, they're beaters, and they're cheaters, and they're murderers. And at the same time, they come across as just a wonderful, benevolent society. And of course, most of the people, the majority, which would be the underlings on the lower degrees, they're really just innocent, joiners with them, because they don't understand the true nature of what's going on at the top. That it is a secret insurgent military force unannounced, and a covert operation, and they are the eye for the eye of the Vatican. The eye because they are the UPS driver, the postmaster, the mail deliverer, the doctor, the dentist, or the hooker, the dirtbag motorcycle driver, Hell's Angel. They got all of them in their conference, in their league. And they come back and they got their blood oath that they got to do what the higher ups tell them what to do, and so they'll the taxi driver, whoever will go out and then bring in the information. So they are the perfect insurgent military force unannounced, and they're under the control, of course, at the top of Kabbalistic banking, Zionism, and who's under the control of the Vatican, and then it goes from there all the way to the ancient Aryan Brahmin priesthood in northern India from ancient time, which is one of the stories that I talk about, in my Forbidden History.
Yeah, and again, I'll put the mirror on that. Always the devil's advocate, because that's what I do. Two-spirit, my nature. There are those that when you see what is actually there and haven't had it interpreted for you, where you've actually taken it upon yourself to decipher it yourself. I can take a butter knife and make it good and evil at the same time. It is the one that is in control of that particular organization that will make it evil or not.
Yeah.
And again, it boils down to the only two things we do as creator beings, and that is create because and create an effect and then observe it. And most times, what you'll see with the vast majority of people on this planet, myself for a very long time included, all of us, we are at effect to another's creation. And this is where the awakening comes in that we're experiencing right now, in that we're not being so at effect to that creation anymore, where we're starting to think for ourselves. And there are many roads that lead in many directions. I have my own hunches based on the last couple of weeks of beyond epiphanies of where the road out actually leads. And I would highly recommend to everyone, if they get a chance, to revisit the movie, or if you can, read the book, The Wizard of Oz. You would not believe, based on cross-referencing one of the more potent magic books out there, called Black's Law, 9th edition. Of course, it's brought out by West Publications, which is the Wicked Witch of the West, and the only way that she could be destroyed is with the waters of truth. You know, so again, what we're dealing with are analogous and metaphorical. You know.
Yeah. I did a spin on movies, and I have a short read on The Wizard of Oz that I did back about 8 years ago on audio. Did you want me to play it for a break?
Sure. What did you want to do there? Sorry.
Well, I have I did a read on the symbolism within the Wizard of Oz, and taking you down the yellow brick road and what everything was symbolizing. Did you want to do like an example of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. What have you got?
I was being interviewed, and this was something I did. I don't have the dialogue in front of me, so I'll just play the audio. That'll give everybody a break here for a second. Let me see if I got the time on that. Yeah, it starts in 31 minutes. Okay, let me move it up. Stand by. I'll just may have to adjust more audio. We'll do a test.
Stand by the top of the hour.
Okay.
Against the grain with
okay.
Desert Owl will be right
Stand
back.
Okay. Starry night. Let me. Okay, just tell me. Is this audio?
Just do your thing. The audio's not bad. It's a good level. Go ahead.
It's good audio?
Could be a little louder, but it's not bad.
All right. I better have a little loud. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, that's good. Here we go. Let me move it forward.
Sketch the trees and the daffodils. Catch the breeze and the winter chill.
Specifically, but BBCOA does the book called Cracking the Code, and so this is in their dictionary section, and it's definition of the Wizard of Oz. And if anyone can reach BBCOA through bbcoa.com, as I understand it, so to give them credit for that. The Wizard of Oz, a motion picture, 1939, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, book by L. Frank Baum, adaptation by Noel Langley, screenplay by Noel Langley, Florence Ryerson, and Edgar Allan Wolfe, lyrics by E.Y. Harburg, produced by Mervyn LeRoy, directed by Victor Fleming. See note, just as you can read between the gory lines in the newspaper on any day and discover clues issued by the powers that be, you can look hard enough as to what is actually going on. Such notice can also be found in lighter fare, like the movies. Such a movie was The Wizard of Oz, an allegory for the new state of affairs in America in the 1930s following the stock market crash and factual bankruptcy fabricated of the U.S. government fabricated immediately thereafter. The setting was Kansas, heartland, America, and geographical center of the USA. And in comes Twister, the tornado, that is whirling confusion, the New Deal. The stock market, the market crashed, theft of America's gold, U.S. bankruptcy, a Great Depression, and it whisks Dorothy and Toto up into a new artificial dimension, somewhere above the solid ground of Kansas, way over that rainbow. When they finally land in Oz, Dorothy comments to her little companion, Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. After the bankruptcy, Kansas was no longer just plain old Kansas. It was now KS, military zone, KS, artificial corporation venue of the bankrupt United States, newly established federal territory, part of the federal zone, and Dorothy and Toto were in this new state. See, in the state, same dictionary. In the 1930s, the all capital letters written, see all capital letters written, straw man, see straw man, newly created artificial aspect of the former American sovereigns had no brain. And Americans were too confused and distracted by all the commotion to figure out that they even had a straw man. This sounds like isolation of interest again. They got us looking one way, and they got something else going on. They created a distraction, obviously. The New Deal. So the straw man is your trade name, all capital letters. The scarecrow identified his straw man persona for Dorothy like this. Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking. Of course. I'm not bright about doing things. And in his classic song, If I Only Had a Brain, the scarecrow's straw man transmitting utilities succinctly argued, I'd unravel every riddle for every individual. See individual. In trouble or in pain. Translation: Once one discovers that his straw man exists, all political and legal mysteries, complexities, and confusion are resolved, and once one reclaims the legal title attached thereto, he can protect himself from legal trouble and damage. The Tin Man, or TIN, for Taxpayer Identification Number, man, was a hollow man of metal, a vessel. Oh, all capital letters is a vessel on the high seas. A tin man, right? A vessel, see vehicle. Newly created commercial code words for the straw man. Just like the scarecrow straw man had no brain, this tin man vessel had no heart. Both were artificial persons. They were persons in the true sense. See, person, a fiction, an actor, a mask, a shield, a dummy, corporation. One of the definitions of tin in Webster's is counterfeit. Ooh. The Tin Man, that's interesting because that takes us all the way back to the Phoenicians and the mining of the tin. That was one of the first things they mined. The Tin Man also represented the mechanical and heartless aspects of commerce and commercial law. Just like they say in the Mafia, nothing personal, just business. The heartless Tin Man also carried an axe, traditional symbol for God, that is modern commercial law, in most earlier dominant civilizations, including fascist states. In the words of the Tin Man expressing relief after Dorothy had oiled his arm, I've held that axe up for ages. Of course, that axe would symbolize the berserker axe that's found in the fasci. Continuing, the word ace is etymologically related with the word axe, and in a deck of cards, the only one above a king is the ace. That is God, perhaps. Not certain, no, the symbolism here. One of the axes, but it is the heart, that is for sure. The heart, wherever they are, whatever it is. One of the Axis powers of World War II, Italy, was a fascist state. The symbol for fascism is the faces, also known as the fasci, the faces. A bundle of rods with an axe bound up in the middle, a berserker axe, and its blade projecting. The faces made, faces, by the way, the etymology of that, of course, is the sun. The fire of the sun, the faces, an ancient Aramaic, when they said, your face, they were saying the same word as the sun, that this was as if a star, head was a star, and if you were smiling, they say your sun was shining. And so the faces, of course, is the Kai, then it's going back into light, and the Kai. The faces may be found on the reverse of the American Mercury head dime. The Roman deity Mercury was the god of commerce. And on the wall behind and on each side of the speaker's podium in the U.S. Senate, each gilded faces is approximately 6 feet in height. At the base of the seal of the U.S. Senate are two crossed faces, and directly below Lincoln's hands on the face of the arms of the chair in which Lincoln is sitting in his memorial at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. The faces, the fasci, fascist state, doing the bidding. Lincoln was an agent of the British, of the bankers. That's been a hard one for people to pull together because the history hasn't been told, but I'm going to be interviewing Greg Durand here real soon, and he does the most important history about that. Continuing, the lion or king of beasts, see Gentile. Some members of society regard you and your family and friends as nothing more than animals, cattle, to be bred and birthed, herded and harvested, and sold and slaughtered according to the whims of those who run the global plantation. A denigration in itself, representing the once fearless American people, had lost his courage. After your first round with the UCC-constituted IRS defending your Tin Man, dummy corporation, vessel, vehicle, individual, employee, public corporation, all capital letter, written juristic name, artificial person, straw man, trade name, you probably lost some of your courage, too. You don't know it, but the IRS had been dealing with you strictly under the laws of commerce, and just like the Tin Man, commerce is heartless. There is no law. Remedy is in commerce. No law and there's no remedy. They got you looking over there when you should be looking in commerce. Isolation of interest. got you going in the wrong direction. To find the wizard, you had to follow the yellow brick road. That is, follow the trail of America's stolen gold, and you will find the thief who stole it. In the beginning of the movie, the wizard was represented by the traveling mystic, Professor Marvel, whom Dorothy encountered when she ran away with Toto. His macabre shingle touted that he was acclaimed by the crowned heads of Europe, past, present, and future. Boy, that Professor Marvel must have been a regular wizard, to be acclaimed by the future crowned heads of Europe before they were even crowned, before the bankers stole America. They had long since disempowered the Christian monarchies of Europe and looted their kingdoms. Maybe this Professor Marvel fellow knew something about the future that other folks didn't, with a human skull peering down from its painted perch above the door inside his wagon. The good professor lectured Dorothy of the priest of Isis and Osiris and the days of the pharaohs of Egypt. When Dorothy Gale and her new friends emerged from the forest, they were elated to see Emerald City before them, only a short jaunt away. The Wicked Witch of the West, desperate for the ruby slippers that Dorothy was wearing, would have to make her movie move before our heroes were inside the walls. A significant point here is that in the original book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, published in 1900, 39 years earlier, the slippers were not ruby or red, but silver. At the time the book was written, America still had all its gold and silver, and the value of 1 ounce of gold was at 15 ounces of silver, silver being the more plentiful of the two metals, just as the silver slippers carried Dorothy. America's stockpile of silver and gold backing the currency carried the country to a position of preeminence throughout the world at that time. But as mentioned, when the movie came out in 1939, the slippers were not silver, but red. Could we say red in blood then, maybe? Between 1916 and 1933, virtually all of America's gold ended up in England and Germany, as directed by the owners of the private Federal Reserve Bank. Did everyone hear that? Between 1916 and 1933, virtually all of America's gold ended up in England and Germany, as directed by the owners of the private Federal Reserve, and we might as well add the Swiss. The reason for this was the Federal Reserve notes could be redeemed in gold, and the use of Federal Reserve notes carried an interest penalty that could only be paid in gold. We traded our gold in exchange for the use of worthless paper with green ink on it, whereas our original currency, United States notes, carried no such interest requirement, but such was the bargain that came with the Federal Reserve notes. When bankruptcy was declared in 1933, Americans were required to turn in all gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates by May 1st, May Day, the Illuminati, the birthday of communism in Bavaria, in 1776, the birthday of the IRS, and the celebrated worldwide as International Workers' Holiday, a holy day to the wizard and his tribe. The day the Illuminati acclaimed America and were formed. Consulting peoples who were alive at that time, you may find out that the general sentiment towards such thievery bordered on a second revolution. Maybe it was just too much of a clue, too much salt in the wound for Dorothy to be skipping down the yellow brick road in a pair of silver slippers. So, for whatever reason, a color less likely to annoy and provoke was selected, maybe. Regarding the choice of ruby, red-colored slippers, red's primary significance, at least on documents and the like, is that of the color blood, as in the flesh and blood, and symbolizes a living, breathing man, woman, that is a non-corporate, not an artificial. It also signifies private rather than public, public property. The new, do you want to be public? The new Social Security card has a red serial number on the reverse, like signifying the private side, account, or blood, associated with the trade name's public side, Social Security number, account number, before redemption. For postal employees, red-stickered registered mail means private accountability, private. All other mail carries limited liability on the public side. It is likely that the ruby slippers symbolize the American people with blood in their veins, and not citizens of the United States, strawmen, trade names, the 14th Amendment, with their counterfeit corporate blood of blue-black ink on a birth certificate. No matter their color in the movie, the Wicked Witch of the West wanted those slippers at any cost and had to move fast before Dorothy and crew could make it into the Emerald City. Her tactic was to cover the countryside with poppy flowers, or poppies, the source of heroin, opium, and morphine, symbolically drugging them into unconsciousness. And than just waltz in and snatch the slippers. In other words, the best way to subjugate the American people and boost the goods was to dull their senses by getting them hooked on drugs. Note that LSD was created the same year in Switzerland in 1939 by Dr. Albert Hofmann. The poppies, drugs, worked on Dorothy, the lion, and Toto, our flesh and blood friends, but had no effect on the Scarecrow nor on the Tin Man, the artificial entities. The two of them cried out for help, and Glenda, the good witch of the north, answered their prayers with a blanket of snow. That is opium, perhaps. A stimulant, nullifying the narcotic effect of the people, or the poppies, opium, on Dorothy, the lion, and Toto. At this writing, aside from marijuana, the two most available drugs on the streets of America are heroin and cocaine in their various forms. All merchant for centuries by the great merchants and the East India Trading Company. As they all scamper toward Emerald City, the city of green, Federal Reserve notes perhaps, the new fiat money or money by decree. We heard the Munchkins singing on the glory of the wizard's creation. You're out of the woods, you're out of the dark, you're out of the night. Step into the sun, step into the light, keep straight ahead for the most glorious place on the face of the earth, or the stars. Forgive my singing. The foregoing jingle abounds with luminous Luciferian symbols and metaphors regarding darkness and light. The Wicked Witch of the West made her home in a round medieval watchtower, an ancient symbol of the Knights Templar of Freemasonry, who are given to practice witchcraft and also credited as the originators of modern banking circa the period 1099, which sounds like the Norman Franks who took over England. The Wicked Witch of the West was also dressed in black, the color symbolizing the planet Saturn, the sacred icons of the Knight Templars, the colors of and choice of the judges and the priests' robes. Who was the Wicked Witch of the West? Who was she symbolizing? Remember, in the first part of the film, her counterpart was Elmira Gulch, who, according to Aunt M, owned half the county. Woo! Miss Gulch alleged that she seemed like she ran the county too, didn't it? Told the sheriff what to do. Miss Gulch alleged that Dorothy's dog Toto had bitten her. She came to the farm with an order from the sheriff demanding that they surrender Toto into her custody. Aunt M was not immediately cooperative and answered Miss Gulch's allegations that Toto had bitten her. He's really quite gentle, with gentle people, that is. Could Gentile really, gentle mean Gentile? See Gentile. When Miss Gulch defied them to withhold Toto, then maybe she's of another culture. When Miss Gulch defied them to withhold Toto and go against the law, old Aunt M was relegated to pushing the party line for Big Brother. She dutifully succumbed under the pressure and consoled Dorothy reluctantly. We can't go against the law, Dorothy. I'm afraid Toto will have to go. When Dorothy refused to surrender Toto, Miss Gulch lashed out. If you don't hand over that dog, I'll bring a damn suit that'll take your whole farm. Today, 70% of all attorneys in the world reside in the West, America. 70%, to be exact, and 95% of all lawsuits in the world are filed under U.S. jurisdiction. 95%. The Wicked Witch of the West. Wow, right, Peter. The Wicked Witch of the West and Miss Gulch, my dear friends, represent esquires, judges, and attorneys. The British, the regal, that is the American legal system, including the attorneys run by the U.S. Congress and the White House, all skull and bones and agents, of course, in a foreign ship of state, executioner and primary henchman for transferring all wealth in America, everything from the people's labor into the possession of the banks and the government in their hands, in their stockpiles. The Wicked Witch of the West wanted those silver slippers, the precious metals, and her counterpart, Miss Gulch, wanted Toto, everything. What does the word Toto mean? In the meaning of the attorney's language, in Latin, it means everything. Dorothy and the gang fell for the wizard's illusions in the beginning, but soon wised up and discovered the wizard for what he was, a confidence man. When asked about helping the Scarecrow strawman among other babblings about getting a brain and universities, the wizard also cited the land of e pluribus unum, which is in Latin is one out of many, that is converting the many into a one new world order, a one novus ordo seclorum, a Latin phrase placed on the American dollar bill shortly after the bankruptcy. all in one and one and all for them. He also proudly confessed that he was born and bred in the heart of the western wilderness, an old Kansas man myself, I say. Yeah, the bankers did pretty well in Europe, but as the wizard pointed out, they made killing in the western wilderness, real killing, killed everyone in their path, I think, and robbed everyone else to this modern time, i.e. America with the theft of American gold, labor, and property, not to mention they lied to you, property from the, quoting John D. Rockefeller, grateful and responsive rural folk, I love them, who populate that country at that time. When Dorothy asked Glenda, the good witch of the North, for help in getting Kansas, back to Kansas, Glenda replied, you don't need to be helped. You've always had the power to go back to Kansas. Translation. You've always had the right and the power to exercise your sovereignty. You just forgot. You forgot the machinations, the methods, the way, the actual act of asserting your sovereignty. Remedy. See remedy. A common law copyright notice and a UCC financing statement, a commercial security agreement, for filing with the Secretary of State can become completed from scratch in no time. America and Americans have intimate first-hand knowledge of the heartless machinations of the law of commerce, religiously applied by the unregistered foreign agents of the Internal Revenue Service. The IRS, foreign agents, see, lying, a fraud, truthfully. Turn the cover, pull back the curtain, look behind it. It's the truth. The IRS, accountancy firm and collection agency for the Federal Reserve Bank, foreign interest, they're the government. Not the box of Washington, D.C., the Federal Reserve. That's the government. That's what runs everything. Was constituted under the UCC at its inception in 1954 and has been operating strictly in that realm ever since. You may have wondered, what is the meaning behind the words in the title, The Wizard of Oz? Look them up in a dictionary like almost everything else. It's right there out in the open for you to see if you will just look closely enough. I'm glad I'm on the last two paragraphs. One definition of wizard is a very clever or skillful man or person, as it says here. Fiction? Illusion? Yeah. Oz is an abbreviation of onza. Onza, the Italian word for ounce or ounces, the unit of measurement of gold, silver, and other precious metals. No matter how large the quantity of gold, silver being discussed, the amount is always expressed in ounces, onza. E.g., rather than hundreds of tons of gold, it's so many millions of ounces of gold, as attested by the factual history of this country. The Wizard of Oz was the wizard of the ounces. Everything working out for Dorothy. It worked out, for her, i.e., the American people in the end, and she made it home miraculously, right? She just closed her eyes. I think that was miraculous. Meaning there is remedy and loss. See, remedy is there. It's there, yeah. It's been just encoded and disguised and camouflaged. Fortunately, the code has been cracked. The commerce game, of course, we're talking about. Their code, the Uniform Commercial Code, and there is a way home, just like in the movie, and it's working today. I can attest for that. I know it. Like Dorothy said, there's no place like home, and there isn't. It's the truth. There's nothing like sovereignty for a sovereign, for freemen, for free people, for free mind, for free heart, for a free conscience, for free roaming, for free being, free dawn, free judgment, free thought. We have commercial remedy in the redemption process. You will continue to be conned by the confidence men and worship the wizard's light show, or you will wise up like Dorothy did and look behind the scenes. And good thing she had some innocence about her, because the innocence is a really precious thing too. And thank you for letting me read that tonight.
Okay, there you have it.
Yeah, I'm going to bring a few more layers to that, and we're going to have some fun. Because, in essence, I couldn't agree more that The Wizard of Oz is the story that has so many layers in it. Frank Albaum did a beautiful job, one of my favorite authors, of bringing these pure truth to light. One of the comments I've been in the chat room here on Freedom Reigns as well, when you were talking about putting the people to sleep with all the poppies and and referencing snow, of course, is a slang word for coke and what have you. One of the things, the ethereal layer that I caught from it was the only thing that woke Dorothy up, in fact, was the cold, hard truth. And of course, water is in its more hardened state, a little more solid state when it is snow. It's not quite hail, but you know what I mean. So what woke them up was the cold, hard truth. And there's so many things. Prime example is the very balloon that Dorothy ended up escaping Oz, the Wonderland from, was the very balloon that brought the wizard there to begin with. And in the end, it was Dorothy, in her own innocence, that actually rescued the wizard. And our job here is to rescue the wizard. And it is the innocence that has been brought here in order to do that. That regardless of what we come across in terms of evil or what have you, are we strong enough in our own innocence and our own truth to show the way, to be the illuminated ones, not the ones that claim to be illuminated and using these very things to control people. In as much as the Knights Templar were murdered back in the day, that's the Friday the 13th aspect, being supposedly an unlucky day. And with me, I always put everything in the mirror with regards to everything. I'm going to look at it from, how is it good? Okay, well, I use the butter knife as an example. The butter knife is good in that you can butter your toast with it, and it can also be evil. You can stab someone to death with it. And it takes a little bit more work than a sharper knife, but it can still do it. And again, the only thing that differs, the only thing that changes, is the perspective. So if we go looking at something as being only good or only evil, we have literally divided and conquered ourselves. It is how are we looking at that, and how are we adapting ourselves into that perspective to convey the message that we see. And really, you have to look at both sides of it. When you condemn something to being evil, then you have nullified half of the equation, and that is not an observation. For me, that's not an observation; that's a judgment. A beautiful treatise on the Wizard of Oz breakdown, and again, that is a critical layer of reality, that it is that pure snow that I know many listeners just had a lot of snowfall on them. And one of the things that I'm loving about the fact that you brought that to air is it's brought in the child side of things, and that's exactly where I am and have been for a while, in finding that child within. Because I have to tell you, I've had some major paradigm shifts over the last couple of weeks, and for anyone that was listening to my show this morning, I had Tony there as well. On awakeradio.co.uk, my answer for anyone in terms of finding my way home will be the very day that I'm not on the air anymore. So when my voice goes silent, the silence will be golden. You will know that I've made it home. And from there, I can offer certain help, but I'm not going to trespass on the true will or the free will choice of any individual to get home, because that has to be their experiential choice. That is not for me to decide for anyone. I can do my thing, and if people see what I do as something that can resonate with them, and I don't want to be painting on anyone's canvas. I'm adamant about that. Don't take my word for anything. Check your own heart. Don't listen to your brain. That's what got us into this mess in the first place, where people got too analytical and tried to figure everything out, and they wonder why their lives were in a mess. It was because a lot of times when you're using the analytical, what matters to how you've affected other people kind of falls by the wayside. I was kind of hoping to get Tony's perspective on that as well. Tony, what have you got?
Yeah, I was just interested in one of the aspects of the control system that you were mentioning there. And one of the things I pointed out was that if you go to the Royal Courts of Justice and you look at the emblem that's on the outside of the building, and I've been, the fact of the matter is what's actually happening, the lion is representing the strength of Christ. And the unicorn, the lion's on the left, the unicorn's on the right-hand side, and the unicorn's representing the spirituality of the people, the masses, etc. And what you'll actually see is the unicorn is actually bound by a collar, which is chained to the chained to the ground, basically, chained to the floor. But the interesting thing about it is, because if you look closely, and I've provided the links for the chat room in there, you'll see that the actual collar that's binding the unicorn, or the collar, is chained, and what you'll actually see is the collar is easily big enough for the unicorn to lift off its own head and free itself from those chains of servitude. And that's basically the opportunity that we've all got, because if we begin to become conscious of this information and conscious of the situation that's bound us into this and these systems and these constructs, then we have the opportunity, quite rightly, under natural law, and well, natural law is it, really. We have the opportunity to free ourselves. But it's only our own decision to make that choice that's holding us bound. What they're offering you is freedom. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't understand it, if you can't see it, if you can't figure it out, and if you don't get it, then how are you ever going to find out, number one, how you're bound, and number two, how to free yourself? And that's where education, or educating yourself, comes into it again. It comes back to the fact, make a decision. Do you want to be free, people? Or do you want to be held into FEMA camps and all sorts of other rubbish that is not really good? And that's the choice. So we need to look on the positive side, do some research, and try and understand the opportunities that are presenting themselves to us every day, both the good and the evil, and make a decision.
Bingo.
That's my take.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and again, it really is about shifting your perspective to both sides of the coin. And I've used this primer before, in that you can take a quarter, say 25-cent coin, and flip it in the air and get someone to call heads or tails, which the coin has both heads and tails. And what happens when the quarter hits the floor is that it's still a quarter. Regardless if it's heads or tails, it's still a quarter. And that's the thing about truth. It can work on both sides, depends on the perspective and the intent. And that's why, you know, I can look at the Vatican as being pure evil and pure love. I can look at the Jesuits as being pure evil and pure love. I can look at everything in this paradigm that we exist in from either perspective. I don't make the choice until I find something that resonates with me. And the only two questions I ask myself ever are, is that something I would do, or is that something I would not do? And again, you have to bring the choice home. There's your going home. You are home, right? You are the home, and you have to bring your choices home. You have to bring your balloon, your clicking your heels 3 times together to bring it home, and the home you find is within. And the truth was always there. I mean, Glenda, the Witch of the North, said it at the very end of the movie. The truth was always there. You always had it available to you if you would but, you know, stop and look. Yet here's Dorothy caught up in all these dramas and all these fear things thrown at her, you know, the flying monkeys and the wicked witch and ooh, ah, ooh, you know, those guys, right? And what happened at the end of the movie when the wicked Witch of the West was destroyed by the waters of truth? All of her guards cheered because they, the military or the police or whatever, were as bound to that evil by their own choice and more overly their own fear. You know, they couldn't even step out of uniform.
Yeah, or they were under the spell, and the spell is not really a magic spell. It is really the words that they have bound us with, and that's the beauty behind it, because they're telling you in the very word spell that if one knows the true nature of words, then they can be set free from the control of the spell and be able to then become in control of those words and the diction. And what I was thinking of, you know, as you were talking, was how as a takeoff from the banking scenario with the Wizard of Oz, is that in the city of London, which is one of the three city-states, on one of the the lanes they have there is called Change Alley, which is a rather interesting name of a street. And then I remember when I first got into the political movement back in 1992, I got a copy of the annual report of the Council on Foreign Relations, because I had formed an organization called Council for the National Interest, which was to be the antithesis or the opposite energy of the Council on Foreign Relations. And so I wanted to, of course, know the enemy. And if one looked in the back of the Encyclopedia Britannica, it would say regarding the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, that they are the think tank and control the policies of the United States government in foreign relations. Not to mention, probably even we could include domestic, but certainly with the foreign. And at the end of every year, they have a meeting with the anchors, the news heads, the wonks of ABC, NBC, CBS, and all the others. At the end of every year, around Christmas, they have an annual meeting called the Interaction of TV News and Foreign Policy, which is a rather interesting idea. And even the children of the anchors go there as well to be primed and groomed. But the interaction of TV news and foreign policy, meaning that they're going to instruct the news agents how to report the news in favor of this foreign policy that they intend to implement, as we can look at Libya or Israel or any of the other situations that have occurred. No real objective news reporting, but a political agenda that's being controlled. And also the CFR said that it doesn't really matter which party, Democrat or Republican would win within the election, because they are in each of the parties that they always win. The CFR always wins. But the annual report in 1992 that was written by the President Leslie Gelb, in there he used the word change, speaking of Change Alley again. And so I noticed that from that point on, when he coined the term change, that any politician that would take their acceptance speech within political office, whether it was state or federal, that within the speech, the acceptance speech of the politician, they always said, we are going to have change. Change, change, change. And so I noticed, that as I got into the movement, and I was still watching television back then, which I don't watch anymore, that without exception, every political acceptance speech said we are going to have change. And of course they don't ever tell you what kind of change we're going to have. And I at the time, based on embracing through my still naive knowledge at the time, thinking that our American principles and the founding of America was legitimate, and that that, oh, wait a minute, I think we're supposed to preserve and protect, aren't we? We don't want change. We want to preserve and protect the things that we consider sacred, like our Declaration of Independence, our constitutions, whatever. Now I know the truth in a bigger light. But so change, they never define what kind of change they're going to give you or shove down your throat. Just like outcome-based education, I like that one. They never tell you what kind of outcome they're talking about, but it's based on outcome. And these ambiguous terms that really don't mean anything by themselves, which still need to be defined. So ultimately, then we see in the commercials they start picking up the buzzwords, change, change, and the next commercial, is all about change. We're going to have change, and they never define that word either. And then, all of a sudden everybody's singing the tune. Everybody says, yes, I want change. Everybody talking about the next politician. We hope we're going to have some change going on. They never define what change. Maybe it means what's left in your pockets after they take everything else from you. So anyway, that's how they've put us under the spell. Once the CFR coins the term, everybody's singing the song. Kate?
Well, that's it, yeah. One of the things that you brought up a lot of points there. One of the things that I'm trying to get people to start steering their boats away from is getting into the drama of all the things that are out there to distract us. They are merely clues. The true answer lies within. And the more time, again, and here we are, the innocent child, going out into the world, literally casting our boats out into all these strange waters to find what we can find to bring home. I would look at it as we're out collecting pieces of ourselves to try to put ourselves together, that we have a cohesive picture of ourselves within, something that we can resonate and be happy with. And I think a lot of times people's misery is more based on the fact that they haven't spent enough time going out and trying to find out about themselves, to go and pick up the pieces that are out there waiting for them to get and bring home and complete their own little puzzle. Where am I? Yeah, see, I'm in such a place right now that it's very difficult for me to explain to people the surrealities and the absolute wonderment of what it is that I've been working with a few other people over the last couple of weeks, Tony being one of them. I'll get Tony's view on this one in terms of we talked about this morning a little bit, in terms of the moment of the now. Tony, have you in terms of shifting mentally and more importantly spiritually, how have things been over the last, say, week and a half?
Well, it's not so much as how have things been. It's been one hell of a crazy ride, but I need to actually draw you back to something we've all missed. And, well, at least I think I'm all right to do that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, you know how careful we're trying to be here. But the point is, what we missed, from my perspective, which struck me like a baseball bat around the head, was like, we're conscious. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, stop. Don't say anything. Don't think anything. Just open your eyes, look around you, and you'll experience something. And that something you're going to experience is consciousness. And that's the thing that they need to keep you distracted away from. The fact that you are conscious. And then we need to look into what consciousness is. What consciousness is experiencing the world around you. And then that gives you an automatic understanding. Well, obviously, if I'm conscious, I'm experiencing this level of things, whatever things are. So I'm connected to source, I'm connected to spirit, I'm connected to consciousness, I'm connected to the whole, I'm connected to everything. And that's precisely what they don't want you to understand. The fact that you actually are conscious, when you're not distracted from these things, means that you are alive, you are thinking, you are a spiritual being having an experience as this meat stick, as Kate likes to put it. But the consciousness is not in the meat stick. The consciousness is just experiencing this physical reality through the meat stick. So the very thing that all this stuff distracts you from is the very fact that you're conscious in the first place. And that's what we get back to.
That's what Desert, if you recall our conversation, I took you down the yellow brick road of the one that I'm and a few others are walking on right now. And again, this is something, and I catch myself in this all the time. These are things that the individual has to experience for themselves. And I would say a week ago, I would have considered myself conscious. Based on my stance right now, a week ago, I was unconscious. And there are new moments that I can't even describe how humorous and how wonderfully majestic this tapestry has been woven, and how my particular thread plays into it as much as Tony's and yours and everyone listening, how their thread goes into it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the game here is, this is why I stress to people, you know, don't look at, here's my stance, I don't look at people as my enemy or as my ally. I look at them as both. And it will be up to me to decide what lesson it is I need to learn to fix that which is needing fixed within myself, to correct my perspective on what I would do versus what I wouldn't do. so this is the coming home for me. And I have to tell you, standing outside this morning, experiencing my epiphany moments that are coming like so fast. It's unfathomable to the point where I literally, Tony and I were going to do a show earlier in the day that didn't pan out, but I am so grateful that we didn't, because I literally was exhausted from what I was experiencing this morning. When you start to see things in the now, I'll give you an example. Last night, it was about 3 o'clock this morning, I guess, was out on the deck, and 1 second I'm looking over the fence, and it's calm, it's dark. I look the other way to my left, and I look back, and there's a rabbit sitting on the ground. I'm elevated, looking down at it, and I'm going, "Where'd you come from?" And as soon as I get these kind of moments, I got to tell you, my first stop from that, I'm looking at that as my trigger and what I was thinking of. And I've had one person anyway, for sure, in the chat room had mentioned that they were looking at the Wizard of Oz stuff the last couple of days. That's not coincidence. One of the things that I talked about this morning with Tony, and we had Pondy on, which was just a beautiful experience this morning on Awake Radio. I was talking a bit more about the road home. You see, when we speak in terms of the blue sky surety, which is your birth bond, that never made it to shore, that was the thing that became your crown, your chained crown. And it's funny you say that, Tony. What a coincidence! Because I was looking at that yesterday as well on the coat of arms for the UK, and there's the unicorn, which is the symbol of truth, and of course the horn is the golden mean, right? The golden ratio on the horse's head, or unicorn, which makes it a unicorn. And there is that beautiful white animal of pure truth, bound with a crown around its neck and a chain bound to the other crown. And it's up to us. If you look at the crown, it's not like it was choking it's not like it's choking the unicorn. That unicorn, all it has to do is back down from its stance and bow its head to the truth, and the crown will just fall right off. And I've said that before with people. The only chains that are holding you down are the ones that you have in your hands. They're not bound to you. You are the one that is clinging to it so desperately and trying to find some sense of purpose when you're missing your purpose altogether. You're not actually listening to yourself. I get hit with myriads of distraction after distraction after distraction. And one of my, fallibilities is that when somebody tags me on Skype or Facebook or whatever, I answer them. And I could be right in the middle of something, and I see, okay, I got to go check that out. And what I would normally do is spend solid time on things. That was easier when I didn't have so many contacts, but I would spend the time and go through the complete idea. And what I find happening, it's almost deliberate. That the invisible wizard is testing me constantly, and can I withstand it? And yeah, I'm at a point now where I stay focused, and if some people are offended, that's entirely up to them. That's not my intent. In as much as if you're on a phone call with someone, I'm not going to come walking over to you and start asking you questions or start blaring, a music video in your ear or, waving my arms in the air to distract you. That's not what I'm going to do. That's not something I would do. And my own bane is the fact that I would maybe expect or hope to expect that others would treat me the same way. And that's not always the case, and that's okay. That's just not something I would do, right? So I just I move along. Now, I wanted to bring something to the fore here, and I want you, Desert, to have a little look at this, because after the show, of course. What I do want to do right now is stress this book that this dictionary that you've put together. I really want to get this into people's hands, because there are some beautiful layers in it that are going to open up even wider paradigms to what they're they're used to getting on this show from a different perspective, and I you know, and I won't say that I agree with everything you've got, but I certainly agree with enough of it to say, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that people need. Because I know that, and I would hope that you don't agree with everything that I have either. I don't want this game to be boring, you know. We'd all sit around and going, yeah, all day long. That's just boring. There's no game there. So if you could, just pass the information along again as to how they can get it. And I do feel, and this is Kato Gaia talking, and I don't do this very often. I feel people need to get a really different perspective, because the way you've laid it out, it's more in the visual. That's going to be the awakening for a lot of people. In whoa, check that out, you know, because you've presented it in such a funky way. It's not easy to read, and I love that. No, it's not. It forces you to look.
Yeah. Well, you know, because letters are symbols.
Exactly.
Therefore, I'm playing with the symbols, of course.
Oh, you weren't playing. You were having a party.
Well, it's like I can't avoid it, and I get a lot of criticism over it.
Oh no,
and I don't know what to do. You know.
No, that's pure art. Oh, please. You know what an art critic is? Someone who can't paint. Please. You know, it's easy to sit back and criticize someone else's painting. Here's a paintbrush. Why don't you do it? Well, shut up. I love Bill Hicks, you know. Stop the internal dialogue. You're wrong. Get over it. Shut up. You know. But anyway, give them the information again as to how they can get to that wonderful. It's a work of art.
Well, thank you, Kate, and of course everybody is a critic at one point or another, and but the thing is to be able to come into the other universe and to let it unfold, you know, because as it says, where there is no vision, people perish, and so it is a matter of being able to resonate with the diction, because the letter. In other words, I read, and I'm going to give out that information, but I just want to say that, you know, I read on several levels. I read the components as abbreviated terms, and I'll mention, if you want, right after I give out that information, where I discovered how they've been, where they have been, and who has been doing it, where they've been manipulating our words. But I read the components, the compressed word, and expand it into original root forms. And then I also read the words as a hieroglyphic, and I can give examples of that as well. So literally, the letters themselves are hieroglyphics. And when the Phoenicians, what happened is that when the hieroglyphics of Egypt, dissipated in its use, the Phoenician alphabet actually captured the essence of that. And I also have something, that I don't think I have access to the document right now closely, but so they moved the Egyptian hieroglyphic into the Phoenician alphabet, what we see on our driver's license, and interestingly enough, that Phoenician alphabet on the driver's license, whoever has one out there, I don't myself, they're looking at the most ancient alphabet in the world, and it follows a maxim that says that which is first is that which is superior, and so they've enslaved everybody with the symbols of the ancient Aramaic, which was really common diction. It was not owned by any culture, so it really still is a free zone. But they would claim if you use it, then you're one of theirs, so to speak. But anyway, if you want to get a copy of the real Da Vinci Code etymological dictionary, etymology is dealing with the science of words and their meanings, and so. You can get a copy and suggest a donation of $20, but if you're struggling, any size donation would be happy to give you a copy. Okay, so go to the website therealpublicradio.net, therealpublicradio.net, and click on the PayPal button. All right, and then just shoot me a simple donation, and I'll be glad to get you a copy right after the program. You'll get it right back. And if for some reason you can't get to the website, the email that is associated with that account is simply contact at freeamericaradio.com. Contact at freeamericaradio.com, and appreciate that. And also, if anybody out there is hurting, physically dealing with physical challenges or their family, then go to this website and hit me up if you want more information. Go to number 1, that's a 1, that's simply the digit 1, capital CAPITAL, solution, 1capitalsolution.com, okay? And that's a way that we're supporting the ministry here, at least trying to. I'm supporting my health, I know that, and that's giving me my life back. Highly recommended for anybody. And if you want to turn your clock back, okay, that's what it does, and your wrinkles will go away, and you're going to feel and look younger as you take the product. It's a miracle. It's nutraceutical. It is the future, and it's pretty science fiction-y to be taking something that actually makes you start looking good and feeling younger. You know, so that's what we have, and it's something else. But anyway, where we find that our English diction, in other words, Kate and Tony, the English and Tony, and we may have talked about this, I can't remember now, but you know, the English diction, the West has essentially been controlled from the East. The ancient Brahmin, you know, Aryan priesthood, this Brahmic priesthood, Brahma, you know, the Amen is the original word for priest. The priest in Egypt was the Amen, and so Brahmin means the supporting priesthood. And you look at India, and there's a lot of interesting things there. The most sophisticated of everything is from India: music, healing arts, you know, all science, you name it. And they had the ancient Vimanas and all that, you know. But so they've been controlling, and in fact, you know, they changed the sacred name in the scriptures in Israel, and they said, oh no, you know, the sacred name is too sacred. The YHVH, the Tetragrammaton, is too sacred. So we're going to put in Adonai, you know, or which should be pronounced correctly, Donai, which means the sunrise. And then when I did my dictionary and I spelled it backwards for the anagram, all of a sudden there it was, the word India, you know. And so the sun rises in the east first, and it's running the west, and that's the front office, the Vatican. And so outside the Vatican is a place called the College of Abbreviators, and it's run by the Jesuit Curii, because they want to put the cure in your eye, and they want you to work on your computer and curse, to use your cursor all the time, and be cursing all the time. And so that's where they did it. And it's interesting because for like practically 20 years, you know, I kept saying, you know, they're abbreviating the words. It's like, you know, they're compressed, and you can expand them into like the ST. The ST in a word is a root form of star. So you know, whenever you see like, you know, ST, it's the word star. And the word stare, if you're going up the stairs, you're going up to the stars. That's original thought. If I'm staring at you, I'm starring at you. You know, so the ST, and you find it in all the words then, you know, how they have just mollified it a little bit so you don't get the word star anymore, but it's still there, and when you look at it properly. And so the College of Abbreviators, you know, they had to manipulate our English diction because, as Kipling said, east is east and west is west, and never the two are going to meet. And I now have defied Kipling's quote because through the dictionary and my former radio programs that I used to do, and here tonight, we bring East and West together in the original thought. And so it's necessary to do because once you are able to reconstruct the word in its proper original thought, you get pictures. And I'll give you just a couple examples now. Like, okay, in the Swiss Alps, they say that when you go high up, you're in the alpine, right? But it's not the alpine; it's the alpine, right? It's all the evergreen trees because you're high up. And we never got the picture, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so if we say pine tree, it's not really a pine tree; it's a pin tree, because all those little needles are little pins on the tree. And then if we use the term fir tree, it's not really a fir tree; it's a fire tree. Because the ancients knew, and especially those Phoenicians, when they're going all over the world, they made sure that their men who were going to go traversing the land once they got to shore, you know, how to start a fire. And they said you use the fire tree first, because the fire tree, the fir tree, has the turpentine, and it's a softwood. And you use the softwood and the turpentine to start the fire, and then you throw some heavy oak wood on there to keep the fire going for a long time and burn hot. So, you know, so this is you know, an example. Like laundry is not really laundry; it's lawn dry. you dry it on the lawn. But so we don't do laundry anymore. We do machine wash, you know. And so I in the dictionary I have a whole host of words, you know, to show, you know, this enigma with how they just slant the diction a little bit, and you never get the picture, but the picture's always been there. Just like world, you know, the world is whirling. That's what it means, you know. Or when I discovered the magic letters, one day it finally came clear to me, you know, as I'm following the trail of these burning swords of fire, which is what word was originally at in the original thought, that they were the burning swords of fire. They were burning on a page, and all of a sudden I could see the magic letters. I understood what they were now. It was the L, that was the symbol of the obelisk. N, that which came down, the royal symbol. Then T, the symbol of the cross. It's silent, but yet they gave it to us, and we pronounce it all the time. But if you turn it off, you get the hidden meaning of a word. L, N, T, and the R for royal, and the Roy for, you know, the light, and you know, that comes down. So the L, N, T, R, and I wrote them on a piece of paper, and as soon as I did, I saw where the vowels went. I saw the very word right there in front of me. It was the word lantern. Lantern, meaning that these are the things that can allow you to see the mysteries within the words. You put them into the word, you put the R in a word, you put the L in a word, like in back of the dollar bill, in God we trust. We know they don't trust in God if we think of the generic God, or the prime entity of the universe. You put the L in there, their obelisk, and you get in gold we trust. They took a vow to the L, and that's why the letters that I call the seeds of light are vowels. You know, vowel. They took all the symbols of light in different forms. But so anyway, so the word lantern in original thought, you know, as they try to get us to think, you know, in their propaganda, that everybody in the ancient time thought the world was flat. It's not true. They wanted to propagate it to the ignorant people in Europe that it was flat, but the ancients all knew that the earth was round, and we can now see it within the word itself. This is the proof. This is the evidence, because lantern is really land turns. So they knew that when they were going to light the lamp, they had to do it because the land turns, and they said, "Give me the lantern, because it's getting dark." You see?
Exactly. We do have a caller. We got about 18 minutes left here. I just want to, rather than see if when I screen calls, I miss out on what's going on, because it goes silent on my end. So I don't like doing that. I just like bringing people in and see if they're have any questions or comments. So I have caller area code 360-525. Your mic is it's going hot. It is hot. Do you have any questions?
Hi there, guys.
Hey, how are you?
What's up? Maria Janet. I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of comments.
Well, they got great.
Good to have you.
Fabulous show tonight. It's great. The only thing I wanted to bring back in on the after issue or knowledge of change is that the most famous propaganda ever used is the television, which is constantly sending subliminal messages to our subconscious minds. So, and when you said they bring in change, well, Obama's bringing in the change. Everybody's doing the change all the way back. Like you said, Desert, even the change out of your pocket. But no, the mass population is being hypnotized daily by the excessive hours and the noxious sitcoms that once you get awake, you look at those and you think, my God, how can you watch that? And yet, on the other aspect, coming in with it's all good and all. Since I've been studying with Kate and running my Friday night shows on the cable and working with Tony on Tuesdays on the print of consciousness, cosmic footprint, I'm finding every day goes by that somebody calls me and says, well, he's ready to be a sounding board. Well, this person here did this, and this. What do you this? All of a sudden, I just can't hardly stand to listen to it. And I have to remind them that I progressed, hopefully, from 5th century to dealing with life from my soul. And when you see that it is both good and evil, not evil or good, but both good and evil, all of a sudden you just have no, it's kind of like you took 10 pills to appetite suppressants and then you look at a pie. You can no more eat that pie than you stick at it. It's kind of the same way on this ethereal concept of growing. Come on, guys. We got to see the bigger picture here. And even in our assembly meetings, it's the same thing. I just simply stand back and said, guys, I'm chair. This meeting is going to be run this way. If you have a problem, please bring your perfected competence for the chair. And surprisingly, everybody agreed with me. So it was really good.
Well, one thing you just said, Maria, one of the things you just said there is very, very critical, and this might impinge on people's psyches and affect nature. But you know me, I don't give a shit. Cold hard truth. Here comes the snow, baby. When you look at society as a whole, yes, we have come so far in terms of our technological advances. We have our cars and we have our, electricity and all the modern conveniences of life, yet we're still living in 5th century Rome mentality of bread and circuses. What they've effectively done was made us smart enough to build these wonderful, mechanical devices that have kept us stupid and dumbed down to the degree that, we can build an atomic bomb, but we just fail to understand why would we. That's the irony for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is a terrific irony, Kate. What I find is that we don't even have a foot in the crack of the door when it comes to the concept of knowing. It is the gravity bolts around it that keep us tied down. You can understand that you can go back to Kansas, it's worth it. You have to click your heels and go. You can lift that gravity and have what would you call it? Future universe? I don't ask for it yet. I haven't figured it out yet. The restraints are gone. And it is such an exhilarating feeling to start learning about some of that. That it's just not one pie in the face the last 2 weeks, and especially this week. But 10 pies, bing, 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 right? Each flavor, each different something, has been hitting me in the face, and I'm going, hey, it's just really quite an experience to go through. And then to bring that on the air, like you have, Kate, and I try to do that on these shows, to bring those pictures forward, to awaken those consciousnesses.
Oh, agreed. I do want to jump in here, and I want to tell the listeners, the ones that aren't part of the webinars on Thursday that I do with you, to give people an idea. The webinars are from 9 p.m. until 11 p.m. and it is really the only opportunity where I'm not a host. It's the only opportunity where I get to speak one-on-one with everyone that's there. And it is a different sense of purpose. When I'm doing this, it's different than when I'm doing the webinars. It's very different. You know that. You've experienced it. The ones that... it's a teaching. People really learn. We not only do Thursdays with you, Tuesday mornings with Tony, and I do a Wednesday afternoons right after this call. I go on Michael with Talk Show and explain some of these concepts without the interacting of the desktop, and then we move on to Friday to learn about our personalities, about our and Saturdays when I try to bring back all of these statutory concepts that people need to learn to stop some of the bleeding on the local level while they are progressing up the ladder of consciousness to be able to go further. Oh, yeah, totally agreed. And so I would urge people, and I also tell people this, the time that I spend with Maria on Thursday, I donate that time. Any fees that you're putting towards that, go to Maria to keep the webinars alive. So what you're effectively doing is when you flow to that, you're allowing me to donate I don't like the word donate, to give my time freely and openly, and that is where I get the most joy, because I know that I can do something to help build something else. And this is really the fundamental lesson that I'm trying to bring, that I've learned for myself, that I'm trying to bring to other people, that if we are in service of others, we are helping ourselves anyway. So it's...
That's true. And, gifts are wonderful. Times go on and that we do on 6 nights a week. So the gifts that I'm very grateful for, it really just barely pays the administrative line to keep the webinar line open so that it's available nights for everybody. I don't get anything out of anything and put many, many hours in myself also. And like you, Kate, once you give freely, it always comes back to you in many ways that you just never think possible.
Well, exactly. And one of the common trends and you'll hear the term so often, starving artists. Why is it that our artists are always starving when they're the ones that are trying to bring the greatest beauty to our world? And that's one of the reasons, Desert, why I refer to your book as it's a work of art more than a literary transcript.
Well, thank you. Most of those starving artists had to die before their paintings were worth millions, so I guess I'll have to die before the book's really appreciated.
Well, now, come on, let me bring this back to a level, a modern level. A modern level, just really quick. I know a minute, but I want to explain this because I think it goes through. Okay, just let me 1 second. Years ago, when I was doing my school, and students' parents had an opportunity to remain private ed and pay the fees that it could to get their child in private ed, or their TV and their shows and their night out and their entertainment. Now that approximately 90% of my student body, parents chose the entertainment over the private ed, even though they knew and understood time private ed so far outclassed the public that still would not give up that entertainment. I see that indoctrination into the subconscious by the proper team and all of the subliminal messages always hitting these people in the brain. You go to the movie. Their movies encourage you to go buy food. That's what your brain's getting hit with in amongst the movie. Well, this is the same way. And I think that's why we're warning. Because first of all, we get into our brains. Go ahead.
Yeah, well,
I don't know, Kate, if you remember your thought, because I first interrupted you. I don't know if you can remember that.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's all good. I stay in the now, so what matters now matters now.
Right.
So, what it boils down to. Oh.
Well, can I just say real quick, if anybody wanted to join me on Sunday, having a private conference of to talk about my transliteration project in words, the Burning Swords of Fire, and symbolism. So if anybody wants to come there, the number is on the home index page of the realpublicradio.net. Okay, and that's a 712 number. They're going to see on the right-hand side there the conference line number. I may turn on the stream. I haven't done it since March, but I may be streaming. But that'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday night, and my wonderful associate, periodic co-host Sage will be there interviewing me, and we'll be talking about all this stuff. So anybody can join us there Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, perfect. And again, this is about connecting people and connecting voices to give beautiful looks at truth from different perspectives, and to break down what Maria was talking about, that whole ability for others to program us into being at effect to someone else's cause, where we click our heels together, silver heels, slippers of truth. Silver is mystical for truth. We click our truth heels together 3 times, and we bring our own balloons back home. And then we can become cause. And as soon as you get there, this is the beautiful thing. As soon as you get there, this world changes in front of you. It's beautiful. Where everything makes sense. Everything makes sense to a degree. is amazing.
Go ahead. You used that word change, and I just wanted to, because when I heard Maria talking, I remembered the ulterior code of change, and because when they're saying, we're going to have change, maybe they were really saying, we're going to have chains. We're going to have chains, and we're going to put chains on your legs and chains on your hands and chains on your brain, and you're never going to be free again. So maybe the change they were wanting to give us was really chains and iron.
Well, yeah, and the saying
on Wall Street.
Yeah, as the saying goes, be the change you want to be or want to see. That's what you have to decide. Don't be the change that others expect of you, because at which point you're at full effect to someone else's paradigm and delusion. And look what that's got us. We're the one consciousness having, infinite experiences within itself. And this is a journey of self-discovery from those infinite perspectives. And again, it's one big tapestry, and you have to decide what beautiful thread that you are. Are you going to pull so tight as to, create a crease in the tapestry, or are you going to be fluid and liquid enough to become that beautiful golden mean spiral where the tapestry is infinite and soft and supple, where the change that the ripple you create is, you're the one that's throwing the stone in the pond to create.
Kate, you just dropped off.
Oh, that was weird. Hey, I'm okay.
Usually does that.
Okay.
I gotta go, guys. I got 5 minutes. I'll see you tonight in the desert. Wonderful to hear you again. We need to talk privately.
Thank you, Maria. Good to hear from you. We'll talk.
Yeah, see all the dots connecting again? Isn't that wonderful? Thank you, Maria. We got 4 minutes left here, so Tony, you want any last comments here before we wrap the show up?
No, it's all cool. It's been great to join you guys again. Great to hear from you again, Desert.
Good to be with you, Tony.
Absolutely. As always, as previously, some brilliant information you've got there. I recommend anybody to go and check out that material. Yeah, all good stuff. I would just say to the listeners, go, start doing some research on this stuff. Don't take our word for it. Go and check out the material we've presented, and get involved. And that's the main thing, because apathy is the negation of our natural law rights, and that's the point. What has happened is our natural law rights have been usurped by those deciding that they are going to take control, instead of us realizing that we are actually in control and taking those rights back. And that, in a nutshell, really is it. Cool.
All right, Tony, thanks. Final thought there, Desert? Love to hear it.
Well, just know that we are in the present moment, as Tony was talking about, and that's all we have. And to for a moment, just be still, turn everything off, and realize that you are an eternal being, and that you came from somewhere other than planet Earth, and to connect with your Creator. I do it through my Redeemer. In the original thought, it's Yeshua Het Moshe Yankai, but in the Western, it's Jesus Christ, my Redeemer. And so I want to thank you, Kate, for having me on here tonight, and it's been a real pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Always good to have other perspectives to bring a more balanced look at everything that hopefully appeals to everyone, where they can find enough resonance within what we're saying within themselves. But like Tony said, and this is absolutely critical, truth isn't something that can be stated. Truth has to be experienced and realized. You have to have your own aha moment. That's when you know that the canvas that you're painting on is yours, and it's not someone else's unoriginal idea that you thought was a good idea to share. We've went into agreement with far too many good ideas in the past that have caught us up in things like, back in the late 30s, 40s, where it was a good idea to go to war. That's never a good idea. So again, this is about looking at good and evil at the same time and deciding what is, something you would do in love, or is it something you would do in spite or hate. And really, that's the choice that we have to make as the individual. But I do want to thank you, Desert, for coming on tonight, and we'll definitely get you back, and we'll get you hooked up with some other hosts so you can get out there and do some chatting with the wonderful people on this, our brothers and sisters upon this beautiful spinning orb, this whirligig, as I like to call it sometimes. Beautiful ride. It is a hell of an amusement once you get the eyes to see it and ears to hear it. And again, Tony, thank you so much for being a part of the show as always, and it was great to have Maria show up. And I do urge people, if you want information on the webinar, just contact me directly. All my information has been given out millions of times, literally, I think. So feel free to do that. And I'd like to thank Deatra and Rory for keeping Freedom Reigns going here, where I have a voice that I can share with you. And it's always a pleasure to come to you on Freedom Reigns Blog Talk Radio. You've been listening to Outside the Box. I'm your host, Kate of Gaia. Have a beautiful day, and tomorrow, make a difference. I know you can. Love you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.